When you're 60, it seems like you've seen it all. Betrayal, forgiveness, and those stupid TV shows where men are always saving the world, even though they can't even fix the faucet at home. I'm not a hero, and I'm not an idiot. I'm just an ordinary man who worked honestly for 40 years in construction, who always paid his taxes, stayed out of politics, and believed that family is sacred. And then, she said it. Not loudly. She didn't shout, and she just said it like a sentence, and silently closed the door behind her. It all started as usual. I returned from a 3-day fishing trip. A little tired, a little drunk from the fresh air and the beer I drank with the guys around the campfire. Hey, I have a bag of fish in my hands, a receipt from the gas station in my pocket, and only one thought in my head: how great it is to finally have a rest. I open the door and there is silence. Her no smell of coffee, her favorite vanilla candles, or her voice, which is usually grumpy. "You smell like fish again, Frank." I smiled. I thought maybe she had gone to a friend's house, but when I walked into the kitchen, my jaw dropped. Her favorite cups were gone. Her Bible, a red-covered cookbook, was gone from the shelf. And on the refrigerator door is a note pinned to the door with a teddy bear magnet we bought in Madison. "Frank, don't come looking for me. I don't love you anymore. We both deserve a different life." Sharon. That was it. No more tears. No explanation. No apologies, just like a store receipt. And you know what killed me the most? The fact that she didn't even try to disguise the damn phrase. Not, "I'm confused." Not, "We need to think about it." It was straight to my heart. "I don't love you anymore." I sat down at the kitchen table. Not to clean the fish, I just sat down. I wasn't shaking, I wasn't crying. I just looked at those 5 lines as if they were written in a language I didn't understand. Then I got up, took a beer from the fridge, opened it, took a sip, and spat. She took even my fucking favorite beer and instead left me with a diet soda and a damn note. Half an hour later, the phone rang. I looked at the screen, her number. I didn't pick it up right away. I let it ring. But when the call rang again, I picked it up. Not out of curiosity. It was out of habit. 29 years of marriage is like a tattoo, you can't erase it. "Hello," I said. "Hi, Frank." Her voice was cold and distant. I hope you found the note." "Of course I did. It's a masterpiece." "Don't start," she replied sharply. "I just wanted to let you know that I took some of my things and left my keys in the mailbox. You can stay in the house. Until we find a lawyer." And then she adding, "By the way, we closed the joint account. I took half of it." "Half," I repeated. When did 48,000 become half Sharon? And then I heard a click. She hung up the phone. And no goodbye, no words of remorse. And it was then that I realized she didn't leave today. She left a long time ago. Her body was just still there. I didn't sleep that night. I smoked, drank coffee, went to the garage, went through the tools like a fool. Then I sat on an old cot and turned on the TV. Some old action movie was playing in the background, but I could only see one thing: her face when she laughed for the last time. She really laughed. It was a long time ago. And that was the first time I got scared. Not because I was alone. Not because she took the money. But because I was left without a story. Without a future. Like a stage without scenery. And then I opened the mail, and I saw a letter. From the bank. A bank I didn't even know existed. And that's when all the fun began. I woke up not from a call or an alarm clock. I woke up from the cold. And from a stupid thought in my heading: what the hell? Why is there so much pressure on my back? I opened my eyes and found myself lying on the mattress like a complete idiot. Just on the mattress, without a bed. In the middle of an empty bedroom. And then it hit me. Not resentment, not pain, not even anger. But some kind of animal resentment, like a dog whose kennel was taken away. Sharon didn't just leave. She took everything out of the house, even the things I hadn't noticed before she was gone. And at first I thought I was exaggerating a bit. But no, I went to the kitchen and there was no coffee maker. Okay, I think maybe it's broken. I opened the cabinet and there are no cups. There are still spoons. Only plastic ones. Oh, even no fork, no knife. She even took the kettle. I returned to the living room. The TV is gone. The armchairs are gone. The books are gone from the shelves. Only her old indoor flower in a pot remained. And that pot was cracked, or apparently it did not fit in the suitcase. I went into the bathroom and that's when it hit me. She even took out a roll of toilet paper. One single roll. She left only an empty cylinder. It was not just an escape. It was an inventory. A raid on the household. Sharon went to war and won. I called Dan, an old friend of mine, with whom we stole a chicken from a farm back in the 60s and cooked it in a pot at the dacha. Dan, I said. They took my bed out of my house. Did you have another fight with the sheriff? No, it was Sharon. She took everything, even the spoons, even the silver lighter I gave her for our anniversary. T1 with the engraving, forever yours and yours alone. No way. She took that too. She didn't even forget. Dan was silent. And then, as befits an old friend, he said, "Come to my place." I have an empty chair and a bottle of bourbon. I stayed in the house for another hour. I just walked around and wrote down in my notebook what else my beloved had stolen. The vacuum cleaner was gone. The ironing board for some reason too. She even unscrewed the chandelier in the bedroom. The fucking chandelier. 70s crystal from my mother. Even my grandmother's old carpet, which she used to curse for its old smell, she took away too. Maybe to rub it on the new nest, and the worst part is that all the photos disappeared. Absolutely all of them. The wedding, the trip to Vegas, even her mom at Christmas. Even that one photo of me falling to the pool with a kebab in my teeth. She erased my past, like a virus erases files from a computer. And the worst part was that she knew what she was doing. It wasn't chaos. It was cold calculation. When I arrived at Dan's, he was already standing there with a mug of coffee and a cigarette in his mouth. He hugged me without asking anything, and it was then that I realized that sometimes one normal friend is better than all those family values that we have been shoving into our heads for years. "Did you leave anything behind?" he asked. "Just my old jacket and a box of nuts in the garage," I replied. "Then we'll start a new life with nuts." Dan laughed. That night I slept in his living room, on the couch that smelled like dog and old whiskey. Even though the mattress was hard and the light from the street shone directly into my eyes, I slept. For the first time in days. But I woke up with one sudden feeling. She didn't just take my things. She took away my right to a story. As she didn't just take the bed, she took the ground from under my feet. She took away even the version of me that still believes in family. For better or worse. And it was then that I remembered the letter from the bank that I opened yesterday. It stuck in my head again, like a bone in my throat. Because it was not just about a joint account. It was about a loan. For $30,000. In the name of Frank T. Harrison. That is mine. And the signature was hers. For 3 days I tried to call her. Not to beg her to come back. No, I had to at least understand why. Just one phrase. Just one reason to somehow put together everything that had fallen apart. But Sharon didn't answer the phone. Only this recording of her on the answering machine, where her voice is so warm, as if she still loves the world. If it's urgent, text me. If it's not urgent, it's not important. I wanted to smash the phone. Her, and even more so, her new urgent reality, and then, out of the blue, a message. A Viber message from her friend. One of those who always looked at me like a stained tablecloth on a festive table. I'm sorry, but it's better to know the truth than to live in an illusion. And a screen. A screenshot of Sharon standing in a restaurant in the arms of an elderly, handsome man. His face looks like it's from a catalog of expensive Swiss watches. Hair and gel, a tight shirt, a smile worth $1,000. And the signature, our first day. I was lucky. He's 40 and rich. I read this phrase 20 times. I even thought it sounded ironic. She couldn't have said that, she couldn't. But she did. She wrote it. With pride. with the same smile with which, when she was 35, she showed me our pregnancy test and said, "Well, our adventure begins. He is 40, I am 63, and I am not rich. I live on a pension, work a little bit in a car repair shop, have an old Toyota, and a house that I still pay off to the bank. Yes, I am not rich, but I did not steal. I didn't run any schemes. I didn't ask my parents for money. Aova knew, and when she asked for $100 for a new bag, I sold tools from the garage, but I gave it to her. Because she was my woman, my everything. And now I'm just a badly composed equation. I didn't pass the audition, and I was out of the game. I sat down and asked myself with a smile, what kind of person do you have to be replaced by a young man with money? And then I remembered how one Sunday we were sitting in the kitchen, and Sharon jokingly said, "You know, if I had met you 20 years younger, I would have definitely not noticed you." I wanted drive, money, and men in suits. And now I want peace, and someone to make coffee in the morning, and to understand when I'm silent. And now, are you tired of coffee? Or has silence become too quiet? And then I saw them, by chance, in the grocery store. I was buying milk and bread. She was with him, with her 40 and rich boyfriend. She was wearing an expensive coat. He was wearing a leather jacket, holding a bottle of wine for $100, and she was glowing as she noticed me. And do you know what she did? She smiled, as if I were just an acquaintance whom she had met after many years. No regrets, no guilt, just a simple good afternoon. And she walked past, and I realized I don't hurt her anymore. I am no longer a story. I'm a statistic, an ex, a pensioner, someone who once helped with the move and once loved her more than himself. In the evening I went to see John, my older brother. He had gone through 2 divorces and lived alone in a trailer in the country. We sat on the porch, drinking beer and being silent. She said he was 40 and rich. I finally said, "And you?" "I'm neither. But you're real, and authenticity is in short supply today." She will regret it when her 40 and rich exchanges her for 20 and no clue. Because that's how these games work. I didn't call her. I didn't write to her. I didn't try to prove that I was better, dear, or more real. Because why prove anything to someone who has already sold your image for an illusion? I just sat down, took a notebook, and wrote at the top, list of things I have left. And under the first item I wrote out dignity. When you are kicked out of life, they don't always close the door. Sometimes they just change the locks. And you stand in front of a familiar porch that once smelled like pies, but now smells like someone else's perfume. You don't shout. You don't knock. You just stand there. Because everything has been said. I became a man without age again. Because when a woman who has lived with you for 30 years says, "You are no longer a man for me," your age disappears. All that remains is a body that was once loved but now is just looked down upon. The house is gone. The bed is gone. Money it's funny to even mention. Photos, dishes, books, small things that have accumulated over the years are still hers, because this is her space. I was left with a box of underwear and an old sweatshirt in which I used to dig a garden. And we wish you happiness, but separately. The house was registered in her name, that was the plan. Tax stuff more profitable, convenient. As I never thought she would ever saying, "Legally, it's not yours." And here I am, 63 years old, with a suitcase that used to be my son and a pocket full of dust rather than plans. I spent the first night in a Toyota. I drank coffee from a vending machine at a gas station, leaned against the window, and watched the sky slowly lighten. I had this strange feeling like I was 20 again, and I was at the beginning of my life. But not young, just at the start again, without anything, without a home, no status, no me in the middle of this world. The next day I stayed in a cheap motel for $60. The walls were thin, the smell of cigarettes, the TV hissing even when it was off. But there was a bed. I didn't realize that something as simple as lying on a mattress could feel like a luxury. I lay there and thought, what have I become? People at this age live in comfort, in a rocking chair next to their grandchildren, surrounded by vacation photos and birthday cakes. And what about me? I seem to have fallen out of time, without a home, without belonging, without where. At 30 you are a man in his prime, at 40 you are wise, at 50 you are stable, and at 63, without a roof over your head, without a family, without a full-time job, you are simply a man without age. Because society no longer knows where to put you. You are not fashionable, not promising, not techno-sophisticated. You are superfluous. But you are still breathing. I tried to call one another. Those who were once family friends, suddenly became cautious. Listen, I don't know if it's convenient now. Maybe later. I'm talking to her too. I don't want to interfere. And I realized that there are no friends in adult life. There are those who are by your side as long as you have a woman, status, work, and holiday tables. And when you are not, they go where it is brighter. There is an old green bus on the outskirts of the city. It used to take children to camp. Now it stands in someone else's yard and is overgrown with moss. And I repaired it 10 years ago. The owner wanted to turn it into a coffee shop, but it didn't work out. I called him. Can I live in the bus for a week or two? I'll take care of it. He laughed. Go ahead. There are only squirrels there anyway. So I had a home again. Metal, cold with cracks in the windows, but mine. The bus became my universe. I attached a lamp, spread out a sleeping bag, and took out the trash. And that night, amidst the smell of old paint and the wind, I suddenly felt that I could do something again, even though no one else needed it. In the morning, I made coffee on a tourist burner. I listened to the radio, and I watched the world wake up, and I was not afraid. Because when everything is taken away from you, only you are left. No lies, no conventions, no roles. And this is also a strength. I am no longer a man in a relationship. Not the head of the family. Not the owner of the house. I am just a man age, without a home, but with the inner right to start all over again. Sometimes fate gives you people when you don't even ask for them. It just puts them on the table here. Try it. Don't choke on it. That's what happened to Stella. And I wasn't looking for anything else between you and me, not for a woman. Not conversations, not warmth. I would have survived until spring on that damn bus. I was washing the front window of the bus because pigeons had organized an artistic attack in the morning. Suddenly, a gray Honda drove up, wagging a little suspiciously. She got out of it. She was a woman of about 50, wearing a bright jacket, with a short haircut and a confident walk, as if all this wet grass and mud was her personal park. Are you the one who lives on the bus? She asked with a smile, as if we had known each other for 10 years. I am, I answered, a little embarrassed. My brother told me you're the guard here. I'm opening a dog grooming salon next door. Maybe some coffee, that's all. She just put the thermos on the hood and sat on an old tire next to the bus as if she were her neighbor. I don't remember what we talked about for those first 15 minutes, but I do remember her laugh low, as if smoked, but kind. And her eyes, the kind that are not afraid to look directly. There was no sympathy in them. There was no pity. There was equality. And this was the most valuable thing that could be given to me at that time. She was married 3 times. 8 of one husband drank, the second stole the business, and the third ran away with the younger one. She had no children. Fate must have saved me from the worst. And she earned her money by doing manicures, massages, and sewing costumes for the Yorkshiremen. I like you, she said on the 3rd day, because you don't bend. You look like a frozen dick in the cold, but you stand. It's sexy. At 55, I thought I couldn't be liked anymore. That my body wasn't attractive, my conversations weren't interesting, and my life wasn't material for dating. But Stella seemed to be looking at something deeper. And she didn't care about my holy socks or the unrepaired bus door. She brought me coffee and cookies and laughed at the way I swore at mosquitoes at night. We started having dinner together. I would have soup if there was soup. Oh, no, she would have pizza if she had soup. Sometimes we just sat on the hood of her Honda and listened to the dogs bark in the shelter, and I felt like a person, not a shadow, not a remnant, but a person who has a voice, a smell, and a place next to someone. I was afraid of people. After I was betrayed, kicked out, abandoned, I learned to avoid eye contact. But she could look at me silently for 5 minutes without blinking, and I would start talking. About everything. About my losses, about anger, about shame, about how I still think about my ex at night. And she didn't get angry. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. And then she said, "You're fucking strong." I would have died a long time ago. She wore big sweaters and sneakers, smoked Virginia Slim, and said that meditation was for those who hadn't experienced real depression. She didn't play a role. She wasn't trying to be liked, and that's exactly why I liked her. I don't know what happened between us. It wasn't a romance. But it wasn't just friendship either. It was support. A human without claims, without a future, but deep. She didn't ask if I was planning anything. She didn't say, "What's next?" She was just there, every day, and every time she came, it was like a proof that I was still needed. A day passed, then another. Her phone was silent. I was worried. And on the third day, her brother showed up. Stella had broken her leg, falling down a ladder in her garage. She was in the hospital, but, she said, "Tell that guy from the bus that he owes me a bottle for the coffee I missed." She was lying with her leg in a cast, but her smile was the same. I stayed with her for the whole evening, and we talked about everything. And suddenly she said, "If you ever want to live with someone again, don't look for a young woman. Look for someone who knows how much it hurts." And I thought maybe I've already found one. I just don't know what to do with it yet. When you've already sculpted yourself anew from the wreckage, the past appears. It doesn't slam, it doesn't shoot, it doesn't ask. It just knocks quietly on your heart, silently. And with a voice that you recognize from the first, "Hello, Frank." I was sitting on a bench near the bus, warming my hands with coffee and listening to Stella's dog barking. It was the end of September, but the air smelled like leaves and dampness, the kind that gets under your skin. And then the phone rang. The number is unknown. I answer without enthusiasm, thinking it's another. Change the windows, caller. Can we talk? And then everything inside me died for a second, because it was her voice. Jane. The same voice that used to scream, "Don't love you anymore." The same one that packed up and left without looking back. And here it is again, calm, almost soft, calling me by name again, as if nothing had happened. "Jane." I couldn't even believe I said it out loud. "Yes? I heard you were here in the woods, in an old bus. Do you have a minute?" I didn't say anything. I had a minute and a watch, and a whole life that she had essentially stolen from me. But I said, "Come." 40 minutes later. The same Toyota that I had once chosen for her in the showroom. She came out wearing the coat I had given her for her anniversary. Her hair was in a bun, her eyes were covered with glasses. "Hi," she said. "So go ahead and talk." I didn't offer to sit down. I didn't offer her coffee either. I didn't have any ceremonies left. I thought you were leaving, that you would go far away, and here you are, so close. Because this is my house. "You took the other one," I said without blinking. She lowered her eyes. She said quietly. "He left me?" Silence. For a few seconds there was a level of irony in the air that if this were a movie, would have given the audience a standing ovation. "He's 40 and rich, remember." I spat aside. "But you were happy." "But he got bored. He found a younger woman. He says I've become tired. Too serious. Too many expectations." Her voice trembled. And I was left with nothing. No house, no plans. Annette, I remembered how you always, Jane. "I'm not your fallback, Jane," I interrupted. "I know. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." How many people hear those words and think it changes anything? That, "I'm sorry," has the power to ruin time, to heal wounds, to pick up a cracked heart on the floor. "Do you regret leaving, or that you're alone now?" I asked, and she immediately looked me in the eye. But the main thing is that I didn't fight for us. She just gave up, like the last coward, because she wanted an easy life. And now I sit here and realizing it was hard with you. But really hard. I listened to her, and somewhere deep inside me, something I had long been afraid of rose: compassion, temptation, memories, the way she slept with her legs tucked under her, the way she made coffee with a pinch of cinnamon, how we were silent on Sundays reading different newspapers. But above all, there was one word: threw away, because that's what she did to me. Jane, I finally said, I am not your enemy. I'm not your friend. I'm just someone you lost, and you'll never find. She nodded, slowly, and it was the most honest thing she'd done in years. She didn't ask for a chance. She didn't cry. She just walked away, and I watched her go, knowing that now I was not angry. I'm just free. For the first time, for real. And then Stella looked out from behind the trees. Was that her? She asked, as if she had known everything for a long time. Yes. So, are you with her now? I laughed, bitterly, but honestly. No, Stella. She's in the past. And you here? She didn't say anything. In egg, she just put a bottle in my hand. In honor of freedom. She always wants a toast. It's so strange when your past challenges you from within your own memories. It's like smelling fried bacon in the morning, not because you're frying it yourself, but because it's the smell of someone else's breakfast, someone else's life. I always remember how Jane and I started. Autak, she was the one who laughed at my career dreams. But we were both young, ruthless, and chose the path of convenience. She always found ways to get even more out of me while I, naive and in love, gave. And now she was standing in front of me, and I realized that her new life was my old salary. It was unpleasant. We met by chance. I came to the city to consult with a lawyer about old cases, and here she was. She got out of the same expensive sports car I had once bought her for her 20th birthday. She was wearing a style that was unfamiliar to me: light-branded jeans, a perfectly tailored jacket, and shoes that cost more than my neighborhood. A look, the laugh. Hi, Frank. How are you? She would come over and look at me as if I were wearing old clothes that didn't deserve anything more. My answer was short and high. Jane, what's new? Your new life. You know. It's good. Much better than it was before. And you're probably not interested in what I'm doing now, right? She tilted her head a little, as if stripping me of the last shreds of pride. I felt myself struggling to breathe. Because there hasn't been a day when I haven't thought about how she lives without me, how she spends my money. She became everything I never wanted to be. She became the embodiment of my fears. So, I said, tilting my head, your new life is my old salary. She smiled. It was as if she was looking at me as the very man she had once thanked for the house, for the money, for the path I had paved for her to her new life. But now everything has changed. Well, not really. I still work in the same business, but now I have a higher position. You know, sometimes you don't realize how fast the world is changing. And yet, when money follows me, I begin to realize that I was right. I didn't feel anger anymore. There was no more shock and surprise. There was only a cold emptiness that embraced me with kisses and left me with no chance. In the end, I became really poor, because both money and time were gone, and Jane became a woman who could afford anything. Her new life was like an imperceptible punishment for all the years I had given myself to her. And how much do you earn now? I couldn't stand it. She looked at me. She looked as if she was asking, are you serious? But then she said it, from 150,000 a year. But this is just the beginning. You don't have many chances to understand what it's like. Do you still have your own business? I didn't say anything, because all I have left is the wreckage of my old hope and the remnants of who I was before. Nothing more. How do you feel now? How long will it be like this? Are you just using my money to be happy? Is that what you wanted? How is your soul? She shrugged her shoulders. I wasn't happy back then, you know that. And now I'm getting what's coming to me. It's not about money freedom. It's about being able to move on without someone pulling you back. I stood there, looking at her, and couldn't understand why it hurt so much. Her new life was everything I had once tried to build with her, but she had changed everything in one moment. And now she looked at me as someone who had stayed put. There was no more hint of conversation. She just left. And I was left alone, with the feeling that I had lost everything again. Now her new life was my old money, my time, my efforts, and I had nothing left to give her. There is nothing worse than being replaceable. Elena, and now I knew for sure that my old money had long since become her new world. She was so persuasive. Her words sounded like a song that I couldn't seem to stop. Jane, the same woman who had once abandoned me, taking everything I had, was now trying to get it all back again, but on my terms. That day I decided I had to give her a chance. But not just any chance. I was no longer the Frank she had once known. I was someone else entirely, and now I was entitled to my own terms. After all those years without a roof over my head, without money, and without hope, I finally felt like I could make my own decisions. "Are you serious?" Jane said when I told her my terms. There was something in her voice as if she hadn't quite realized that I had changed. She was sure I was still the same man, ready to run after her smile. But I wasn't running anymore. "You have a chance. But with conditions," I answered. She paused, looking at me carefully, as if I were a man who could no longer be fooled. I could see her mind trying to understand what was happening, what had happened to the man she knew so well. "I want my part. Would I want 50% of what you get from the business, and even more if necessary. You can't say I don't deserve it." She raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Frank, you're not serious. I can't do that. This is your whim." "I make my own decisions." I smiled. "That's what you don't understand. You want me to come back, but now I'm the one who makes the decisions. And this time I won't be in last place." Jane seemed ready for any answer, but not this one. She felt that I had become stronger, that I was no longer dependent on her, and it really upset her. And then I realized she was scared. "So, what, you want to change all the rules of the game now?" Her voice sounded like she was ready to get up and leave. But I stood in front of her and stopped her from doing so. "It's not that simple, Jane. I know what you're thinking. But I want you to understand one thing. You can't just take my money, my strength, and my life without giving me anything in return. This time I will be on my own terms." I looked at her, and it was something new. She who had always kept me in her shadow, who decided when I should laugh, when I should cry, when I should work, now she was in front of me, with indecision in her eyes. It was her old face, but I no longer perceived her that way. She stepped back. "All right then. If you're that stubborn, then I agree. But only because I can still get you back. I'm sure you'll see that I'm giving you a chance to rebuild your life." Her words sounded like she was trying to regain control of the situation. But I was no longer the one waiting for her permission. "Know what, Jane? Maybe you're not giving me a chance, but I'm giving you a chance. Don't forget that. I'm coming back into your life, but only because I want to. And with this deal, you can't boss me around anymore. We're on equal footing now." She fell silent again, feeling her control begin to slip from her hands. And I could feel it, that her dominance would no longer be so strong. And that was the moment when I may have gained back everything that had been lost. We were left standing in front of each other, but with different perspectives. Jane was no longer the woman who could make me listen to her without question. I was the one who was no longer afraid. I agree. She sighed, her voice not only full of despair, but also the realization that I had to deal with this man on his terms. But now it was up to me to decide whether to let her into my heart. That day changed everything. I agreed to return. But I did it on my own terms, and this time I was the one who had more to gain from this game. All these years I lived under the illusion that I could return to my old life, leave all these problems behind. Though at all, I tried to deceive myself that there was still a chance, still time to fix everything. But Stella knew how it would end much earlier than I did. And this time she was right. For the first few months after I started talking to Jane again, I still had hope. I decided that I would give her a chance, not for her, but for me. No, all those years when I was alone, she was not there for me, and I knew I would never be the same again. I decided to rebuild my life, but with another woman. And this woman was not Jane. It was Stella. She found me at the moment when I could no longer fight what had happened. All these years of loneliness, failures and betrayals, Stella was the only one who did not judge me, did not try to make me change everything again. She accepted me as I was. And that was exactly what I was looking for. But no matter how hard I tried to hide the truth, she knew. She knew that I still couldn't get rid of Jane, that I was still attached to that relationship, even if I tried to pretend it was in the past. "Frank, you know this can't be what you really want," Stella said one night. She was sitting next to me, her eyes calm, but I could feel that she had been aware of this for a long time. I turned to her a little nervously. I didn't want her to know, not now. "What do you mean?" I tried to keep the subject out of my mind again. "I know you're still thinking about her," she said quietly. "You pretend that everything is fine, but your eyes can't hide it. I see the way you react to her calls, the way you interrupt our conversations when she comes in. You may not realize it, but I see it. Now I realize that nothing can be hidden from Stella. She was extremely attentive to every little thing. Every gesture I made, every word I said, every look I gave her, she felt it all. And it was scary. She saw everything I tried to hide. I couldn't carry this burden anymore. And here she was, Stella, who had always been there for me, who had supported me in the worst of times. Now she didn't see me the way I wanted her to see me. I tried to be honest with her, but I knew I wasn't ready to let go of Jane yet. Frank, if you want to be with me, then I need to know if you can completely let go of your past life," Stella said, and her voice didn't sound as emotional as I expected. She wasn't crying, she wasn't angry. She just said it as a fact. I realized that if I couldn't get rid of my past attachments, I would lose everything I had now. I could not remain forever attached to those memories, to that pain, to that woman who had left me. And, although I didn't want to admit it, I realized that I couldn't go on living like that. I couldn't stay in this trap any longer. "Stella, I'm ready to let it go. And it's not because of you. It's because I realize that I can't go on living in this past. I want to start a new life, and I want to do it with you. You're right, I haven't been honest with myself or with you. But I'm ready to change. And it starts with letting go of Jane." I saw her start to believe that I was finally letting go, but there was also sadness in her eyes. I couldn't convince her that it was real. "You'll be ready when the time comes," she said. "I'm not going to judge you, Frank. I just want you to realize that you can't build a new life while holding on to the old one." And that was a bitter truth that I was finally beginning to realize. Stella knew that in order to move forward, I had to let go of everything that was holding me back. And even if I wasn't ready to do it completely yet, I could already feel myself starting to let go of my past life, even though it was hard. They laughed with me. They thought that I would remain the same weak, embarrassed man they once knew. They didn't even realize that I was actually someone else, hidden behind the mask of the usual Frank. Now that I had changed, I was the man they were afraid to see. And that was just the beginning. Every step I took, every decision I made was now the result of what I really wanted, not what others wanted me to do. Before, I had always followed the path paved for me by someone else, friends, family, even Jane. But now it was different. When I finally realized my value and became a person who did not depend on other people's opinions and fears, I realized that this causes fear in many people. Those who always tried to keep me on a short leash, those who saw me as a weakness that could be exploited. I was someone they considered an easy target. But everything changed. From the moment I decided that my life no longer belonged to anyone but me, my true transformation began. I became stronger, more determined, more focused. My words gained weight, and my decisions became irreversible. At first, they could not understand what exactly had changed. They began to notice how I no longer ran away from problems, how I was no longer silent when I thought it was wrong, how I stopped obeying when they tried to manipulate me. And they started to be afraid of who I had become, afraid of how I had changed. They thought that I would still reach out for their support, that I would become who they wanted me to be again, weak and dependent. No, but I was no longer who they knew me to be. Now I became someone they did not expect. And that was what was scary for them. And here I stood before them, not looking for their approval, not expecting their praise, not seeking their encouraging words. I became what they were afraid to see me as, because it was my way, not theirs. I no longer allowed them to control my actions or my life. No one could understand why I had become this way. Everyone who once knew me started to feel uncomfortable when I stopped obeying and became myself. Stella understood this, and she was there when I took my first steps, when I started to change my habits, my thinking, my life. And she supported me in this, but even she sometimes could not resist the changes that were happening to me. And now I was a person they couldn't control, and it was hard for them. For many people, I was still the Frank they could manipulate. They did not realize that I was not the same. I became unpredictable, dangerous even for those who used to use me. I saw how they were trying to bring everything back, how they were trying to get me back into their networks, where I would be their working tool again. But I was a different person now, and they could sense it. I was afraid of what they would do to me when they realized that I was no longer amenable, because my whole life was built on their rules and their control. I was afraid I would not be able to get out of this circle. But now that I had become the person they were afraid to see me as, I had no more fear. I was ready for any consequences. If I had to lose them to become who I was supposed to be, I was ready for that. I was not looking for their approval. I was no longer their obedient servant. I was who I decided to be, and that was really freedom. And yet, they did not understand why I had changed. They thought it was temporary, that I was just going through a midlife crisis. They didn't realize that I was no longer afraid of them, and no longer afraid of being myself. I was now who I was always meant to be. And they were afraid of me because I was no longer the person they could control. Well, friends, life sometimes hits you in the head, but that's when we start to hear what's inside of us. If you like this story, please subscribe, because there is even more to come. Wild, true ours.